Welcome everybody to this side event at the 7th Global Forum of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. My name is Anna Pagli. I am the head of the Technological Watch Unit at IRTA, an impact research institute in the agri-food sector, and I will be moderating this conversation today. The global food systems are failing at many levels as the tensions over the productive resources and the climate crisis are rising. We have to transform these food systems in order to provide enough food for everybody, a food that is good for the people and for the planet. We have to come back to a safe and stable operating space within the planetary boundaries in order to provide that food that can bring security for all of us. If we don't do that, we don't have any chances to meet the global objectives of the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement. This is really important because wholesale markets have a very important role in this process of transformation. We really need to have these chains that are more resilient and that can help this urban food supply chains to be transformed. These markets are real hubs where producers, traders, and retailers come together, and they provide essential infrastructures to give support to a diverse and vibrant urban foodscape. They are open spaces that contribute to improve the efficiency in food distribution and also to enhance access to market information for various actors, as well as to establish connections between urban and rural areas. The speakers of these sessions are the director of 5 different markets in the world, and they can give us an insightful perspective of what role these wholesale markets can play. They give us many opportunities to accelerate the transformation to healthier, more sustainable, equitable, and resilient food systems. Let me introduce you to Stéphane Layani. He's the chairman of the World Union of the Wholesale Market President and CEO of Rungis Wholesale Market in Paris, which is the largest wholesale market in the world. Monsieur Senjung Ma, he's not at the room, but he will be attending the meeting online. He's the chairman of the World Union Wholesale Market in in Asia Pacific Working Group and chairman of China Agricultural Wholesale Market Association. Jordi Valls, he's the director of Mercabarna, the second largest wholesale market in Spain, and an important member of the Union of Wholesale Markets. Cesare Ferrero, chairman of Sosegimi SPA, the management company of the Milan Agri-Food Market, and Noel Levagui, president of the Central Market Buenos Aires and national coordinator of the Argentinian Union Land Workers. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here in this event today. I will give you 3 rounds of questions. I will ask you to try to answer them with about 5 minutes. We will give you a signal when there is a minute left, approximately, so that there is some time left for the public to participate. So the first question would be, what is the role of the wholesale markets in relation to strengthening of local food systems, the survival of small and medium local production? What is the role in relation to strengthening organic or more sustainable food production systems? And regarding the necessary global reduction on animal production and increase protein consumption and increase of plant-based protein? Lastly, what about their role in reducing food waste? It is a very broad question, so you can just give the answer as you please. Monsieur Layani, the floor is yours.
Dear Anna, ladies and gentlemen, these 2 past years have been particularly challenging for urban food systems. It was a test, an international test. Border controls in Europe and all over the world have been stricter during 18 months. And food securities in some countries could not always be ensured everywhere throughout that time. These challenges show lacks and insufficiencies in our food system. The fact that the forum is an international platform between cities on the topics of food policy and governance is extremely important. Since most people on the planet will be living in cities in the coming decades, it is clear that cities are in the forefront to develop successful policies, food policies and strategies. COVID-19 showed the importance of having a structured agri-food sector. According to the FAO recent studies, countries and wholesale market experience less disruptions, less price volatility, less food shortage compared to those that did not have wholesale markets with effective and modern infrastructure, like in Rome, like in Mercabarna, like in Rungis. In this sense, wholesale markets have proven to be key infrastructures to ensure a daily supply of fresh produces and local produces to cities and healthy diets. As FAO highlights, they play a fundamental role. In the same time, access to the market to local and medium-sized farmers, and at the same time, access to fresh products, particularly to low-income populations. In urban areas, a significant proportion of agricultural production is marketed by wholesale centers and then go to supermarket, medium and small market, retailers, restaurants, and these markets are characterized by public or mixed management with the town, and which further reinforce their role as agent of each country's food security and nutrition policy. Today, I think that most governments realized that it is not easy to imagine a food supply policy without the assistance of an operational arm such as wholesale markets. In a world where 70% of the population will be living in cities, wholesale markets can play a crucial role in the transition of food system into sustainability, strengthening local food systems, and helping become more resilient. We are the biggest allies for national and local government to help to this transition. I'll give two examples. First example, by supporting local and regional producer, data shows clearly that wholesale markets are a unique platform to sell their product, fostering local system. In Paris, for example, 60% of local food is commercialized by Rungis market. Also, I manage a market where there is diversity. 1 million references of fresh produces in Rungis. And it is important to have biodiversity, and it is a way to foster biodiversity. There lay increasing emphasis on the portion of fresh fruits and vegetables in particular, and have thus large impact in diets consumption and in health. The second example, it is 1 minute, of course. I'm too long, I know. It is strengthening organic food system and scaling up organic products availability. I manage a market, Rungis, where organic produce are very important for us, and I have made a special building for bio-organic produce with 6,000 square meters devoted to organic produce, and I have at least European label or Demeter, which is more strong on organic. And the third issue is food waste. As chairman of WOM, I am fully engaged to share my practices to fight against food waste. For instance, in my market, 100% of waste is recycled, and we have a corporate social responsibility strategy with 63% of the total of the waste produced is thermally recycled, and 16% in bio waste, and the remaining are recycled in material. Well, that's all.
Thank you very much. I think it gives a good idea of the importance of these wholesale markets in the ecosystem, the food systems. Monsieur Valls, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting Mercabarna in this meeting. I will try to answer the question via 3 main items. First, city, second, wholesale, and third is what kind of strategy the wholesale markets can put in place in order to improve this relationship between proximity and distribution. We are in the middle of this process. First, I think it's important to take in consideration what is the city. The city probably is the most creative ecosystems, but probably the most non-environmental system. The city export knowledge, the city export civilization, the city export culture, but the city import resources, energy, water, and food. If you share the volume of the products every city right now are consuming, probably in the case of Mercabarna, for example, when we discuss about fruit and vegetables, we discuss that 65% is from Spain, 15% from Catalonia, 100 kilometers away from the inner city, and 20% import. And we discuss import, it's import from France, from Paris, but from Chile as well. If we discuss seafood, probably this range is it's worse in that case. 55% is Spain, 10% Catalonia, and 45% is import. This is important. Why? Because the wholesale markets, his duty, his main goal has been linked to the responsibilities in the city when the city put policies and governances when discuss food. At the beginning here in Europe, in the 15th century, the cities are main responsibles to produce bread. And in 200 years ago, the city were responsible to supply food. This is the main responsible, and second, the healthy food. Today, the wholesale markets have to do the same. Right? But the first more important question, I think it's important, don't forget that, we have to guarantee the supply food to all the people. Here today there are Paris, Milano, Barcelona, and Buenos Aires. Altogether 40 million people. Altogether, at least, we move 50,000 trucks every month and probably more than 1 million cars to distribute the food between wholesale market and the city. This is important. We can discuss, and we have to discuss, about sustainability, but taking into account the main goal is provide food to the people. What we have to do when we discuss about the wholesale markets, first, food security, and second, I think the governments take into account, after COVID situation, the food supply chain have disturbances, have fragility. I have, after COVID, we can see in the news every day, we have some concerns when we discuss the energy supply, when we discuss the water regarding the climate change, and when we discuss the food. Probably we don't believe, just 5 years ago, when you see the image in the UK TV with some stores without food. But this is the fragility, and we have to take into account that, because that is our responsibility. Regarding that, first question we have to do in the wholesale markets, increase the local production. Of course, if today here in Barcelona we have 10%, it's important to increase to 12, to 14, to 20%. In terms of proximity, in terms of the kilometer zero producers, in terms of bio producers, in terms of sustainability products, but sustainability agro-industries. I think this is really important. And we are working today, I think all the wholesale markets, but more focused in Barcelona, in the bio market. We are in the reconceptualization about the bio market in order to try to introduce not only eco products, also proximity products. This is really important for us. Another way we have to work is all the question regarding organic products, but the other is the protein bags. Sure, in the future, our diet change. This is not a question about the meat. This is a question about the demography of the people. If the people take the same patterns you use when we discuss about animal protein, at same to the 20 years ago, this is unsustainable. It's not question about don't eat meat. We have to eat meat, of course, no problem about that. But we have to introduce alternative protein. And this is the way the technology and the efficiency in the food supply chain have to move forward. In the wholesale markets, we have some specific role. We are responsibility to help agro products and technology in order to improve this technology, to provide more back protein, etc., and the other new food products. And at the same time, we have to work close to the city in order that how we are able to distribute all this food in the city, taking into account the problems regarding the CO2 emissions in this distribution. Mercabarna probably is the smallest of these markets. We move 3 million vehicles each year. Each year. We move 2 million tons of products each year. And we have relationship between producers, secondly, the market, and third, the consumers. And finally, and I think this is important, it's important the city take into account the urban planning when we discuss about agri-land near to the city. This is important because until now, at least here in Europe, when we discuss about urban planning, we discuss this is a housing, this is for retailers, and this is for industrial sector. But you don't discuss about agricultural land. The only question put is it's necessary to preserve. And this is a good idea in the last 25 years. But if we want to increase the local producer, we need to put conditions, urban conditions, to the farmers are able to become more efficiency and increase this production. It's not only question to create consumer behaviors. This is important, but it's a question to become more efficiency in all the supply chain, starting for the producers. And finally, one of the key questions we have to work together, and I think this is an important question for the cities and the wholesale markets, it's zero waste. The 30% of the food is lost between the producers to the consumers. And we are working right now in that way. And I think this is a strong commitment for all the wholesale market regarding that question.
Thank you very much. So we see that wholesale's market role is not just about trade or about produce, but also creating those urban foodscapes and these metabolisms that really helps us to move towards these more sustainable systems. Okay, please, Monsieur Cesare Ferrero, go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna, and good morning. It's always a pleasure for me to listen at Stefan and Jordi because they have such a a great experience, such a good market that for me is all the time a way to understand something more. I try to not to repeat what they said, but to add something. And I try to add some considerations about two questions. Which is the role of our market and who we are? And let me start from the second one, who we are. And Milano is a wholesale market owned by the city. We are a state-owned company. Means that we have not private objective, we have public objectives. Means that our goals are public, are not private. Our main goals is not the profit. We have in our status, we have that we cannot have profit. We need to have just a balance between revenues and cost. Why? To help the city to have the best food and the best circulation of foods. Means that we have as a main task to help the citizen to eat well. This is our task, and our task is shared with the municipality. Our task is the food policy of Milano. It's not the profit of the wholesale market. In some way, we are similar to an airport. We don't sell product, we move product. We don't sell a ticket, we don't sell a kilo of products. We just organize the system. And this is the second point for me. But what is the role of our wholesale market and what we would like to have as a role? And in this case, I think is completely different in each local context. And I need to give you some information about Milano and north of Milano to understand which is the role that we would like to play. Milano, around Milano, in 150 kilometers from Milano, we have around 25 million people. We have more than 1/3 of all Italy population. We are an infrastructure, a strategic infrastructure in North Italy. And a strategic infrastructure in a very density territory. And our market are all the time in a very dense territory. Means that we can be at the center of our territory. And this is the first concept that I want to add to Stefan and Jordi's presentation. We are an infrastructure, we are not a market. First of all, we are an infrastructure. And we are a mobility infrastructure. What we do is to receive some vehicles with foods, mainly fresh foods. We have vegetable, fruit, meat, fish, flour, cheese, and some other products. The first task is to receive food, and the second is to distribute, where 70% is distributed in town. And this is another point that for us is very important in Milano. We are still downtown Milano. We are not outside. Our colleagues, they moved the market outside Milan, outside the town 20, 30 years ago, and they have a very great center, very big, with a great extension. We are still in town, and we don't want to change this, because in this moment we believe that infrastructure means city logistics, last mile logistics. I think that we have to address this problem and to help the town not to be overcrowded by distribution, food distribution. 50% of all the commercial vehicles we see in town are related to deliver something related to food. Means that this is a major task, and is a major task after COVID, because we see that the public transport is going in big trouble. The level of capacity of the public transport is large, is bigger than the public transport they have now. I don't know if you experience the same in Barcelona, in Paris, and in your other town, but in Milano, for sure, the private transport are coming back. And this is a big trouble if you have private transport and private delivery. And I think that we are almost crazy seeing how much is going to be the world in terms of personal delivery. The food delivery is becoming a critical point with internet, with electronic system. We see like a crazy world going around with bicycle, motor bicycle, small vehicle, and no matter if it's electrical or not electrical, the streets are the same all the time. I think that this is our main task, and I will come back eventually in the second round. The second point for me, in terms of roles, is the quality of the food. We are in a wonderful system, France, Spain, Italy, and Argentina as well. We have a quality of food extraordinary. And we have to preserve that. The problem is not the quality, but is the price of the quality. Is this quality affordable for all the people? How many people can afford a good quality food? And this is a task that the municipality of Milano has given to Sogemi, to our market. Try to do something to let the quality be affordable for all the people and not only for the rich people. Well, I think we have a lot to discuss about that, but I will be back in the second round. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think you very clearly stressed the commitment of the wholesale markets to this nutrition, healthy diets, food security, and affordability, and also their role as strategic infrastructures in the countries. We will continue with Nahuel Levagui. Your turn.
Bueno, buenos días, gracias a todos.
Hello and good morning. Thank you to the organizers for inviting us, and also to my colleagues. We are not quite even in terms of gender, but okay. My name is Nahuel Levagui. I'm the president of the Mercado Central in Buenos Aires. This is the largest concentration market in Argentina, with 1,200 lorries per day that come in for supply and distribution. It is an entire city with 50,000 people moving around every day, working on the supply of fruits, vegetables, and a number of other products surrounding us. The question for me is clearly political. There is a fundamental question that has to do with the food model. In reality, the market is the intermediary between the production and the consumption, and as our colleagues have said, it's a middleman between the products that come in and out. But even though it's private, it doesn't free it from the politics, from the use made of this infrastructure, and that with that use, they are promoting a certain food model from the production until down to the consumption and what kind of diet. So for the past year and a half in the management team, I formed part of Farmers Association in Argentina. And when we came into office, what we began to do was implement what we call the social role of the market as a means of circulation of all these tons of goods and products, especially with the pandemic. March 24th, the pandemic was declared, and then that transformed the food distribution into a problem. Society had not thought of food, really, unless it became a problem, if it was too expensive or unavailable, and that is what we wanted to respond to with a technological project. And these things can even get out of hand. We have a control laboratory in our market to measure toxic contamination, and we are finding that some things are not being measured properly. But anyway, the question is political, it's technical, but we have to question the underlying food system and model. And within that food model, what is the role of this wholesale market, which is a link in the chain between the production sector and the proposal for diets or consumption in the market. In our wholesale market, on our management team, once we understood the social role that the market was to fulfill, not just to play the role of, as is the case of many other markets that rent out or lease out spaces, we didn't want to do just that, because I'm from a country in Latin America where half of the population goes hungry. If we can't solve a problem like that as managers, we are not good for anything. That is our philosophy. So what is the role that we could develop in the management of this market? We began to look at a number of matters with the political area. Now we have a food model that we think has been exhausted. The model pollutes, it poisons, and the high-quality products that look so nice and clean, they have agricultural chemicals behind them, and that's accepted, but that's also a political decision. The acceptable levels of agricultural chemical are toxic. If you don't believe me, we can go take a blood test and you'll see how many biphosphates we have in our blood. And not necessarily does that mean quality, because fruits and vegetables, which is what we work on, there has been advancement in green production in this technological package where many of these products, which look so nice, but their nutritional values are very low. And that is thanks to the production model. So that is where we have stopped to take a look and tried to promote or look back to promote a new production model at the market, to begin a debate on how can we generate spaces here at Mercabarna. I know that there is the bio market. So what are the specific spaces in which we can do these things? But a lot of the debate that went on was interesting too. There's another matter that has to do with debate. That is a public debate. And that is where we need to shake things up in terms of what we think is okay, and think about what we eat. What do we eat every day, and to propose a safe and healthy and sovereign diet. And within that safe, healthy, and sovereign diet, bring about a new production model, reinforcing the indigenous family farming model. So this requires a generation of spaces for the marketing of these products, but also to provide special services. It's understood that small farmers and family farms and ecological farms, we're always promoting ecological farms with participative certifications. We don't believe in private certifications. We think that the production modes belong to the people. If the thing is just about using chemical products or not, we're not interested in it. So we think that wholesale markets need to question the entire model, and the role that we play is a purely political one. It is a purely political model because of what we say and what we don't say. Therefore, administering a consortium where the private sector buys and sells fruits and vegetables as part of a whole model, which is clearly feeding a food crisis. That's another question. Wherever there's a food crisis is where the most food is produced. Therefore, it's also a distribution problem. It's not a lack of food. That's the problem. It's a distribution problem. And market models, in our case, let me reiterate that because of the social situation of our context, we have a loss reduction program. Merchandise that loses its commercial value is taken and then distributed to any sort of people's association because it is products. They are products that are in good condition. They've just lost their commercial value. That's one example. Another is a large compost plant. It's crazy to pay to destroy or process. I'm finishing to bury food. So suddenly we find ourselves with a mass of food stuff and waste that is not really waste because it could also be food. It could still be food for others and also compost for the land. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you very much, and thank you for
productive model, and also to contribute to the public critical debate around food and the current socio-technical systems behind food. We will continue with Mr. Ma. Let's see if the translation works. Welcome. The floor is yours. Can you hear us?
中国的批发市场，和其他的国家不太一样。
The Chinese wholesale markets are having a very big difference with the other countries.
中国的批发到现在呢是农产品，从农村到城市是一个最主要的渠道，在大的城市呢占到了80%的份额。
Nowadays, from the distribution of fresh produce from rural areas to urban areas are still a very major channel in China's fresh produce distribution. In some urban area, in some major cities, this distribution share accounted for wholesale market takes up 80% of the total distribution volume.
现在中国的农产品批发市场里面的品种也特别多，除了跟大家一样的蔬菜、水果、肉类、水产外，还有呢是像茶叶的单品，还有干条，就是粮食、粮油等。
And there are also a big variety offered in wholesale markets in China. Apart from the very normal varieties such as vegetable, fruits, meat, and seafood, there are also some special categories that are offered by wholesale markets in China, and they are typically tea and well as dressings, seasonals, and dry condiment. Also some oil and bulk grain products.
所以呢，它的批发市场呢，在保障城市持续供应的方面呢，不管是在蔬菜、肉类、水果，还是在粮油方面呢，都起到了决定性作用。
So if we are talking about the securing role of wholesale market in securing the city's food supply, we are not just looking at the normal categories such as vegetables, fruits, meat, and seafood, but also we have to look at the big picture, which includes the grain and the stable food as well as oil products.
所以正是因为占的份额多，所以中国呢，不管是政府部门还是呢批发市场本身呢，都对批发市场的发展呢给予了高度的重视。
So it's just because of the multiple share that accounted by wholesale market in the total distribution volume. Both the wholesale markets themselves as well as the Chinese government have put great importance on the development of wholesale market.
这个中国是发展中国家，所以批发商建设初期呢，农产品的行动就是包装化、规格化和竞赛模式呢，都比欧美差很多。 但是呢，随着批发市场的发展呢，现在呢，提高的速度非常快。
As you know, China is a developing country. So at the beginning of the development of the initial stage of development of wholesale markets in China, in terms of the packaging of agricultural products and the standardization as well as specification, also the cleanness of fresh produce have been falling behind or in comparison with developed countries. However, during the decades of development, we have seen a very big progress in wholesale market when offering this standardization of fresh produce.
在做今天做的市场，你去看啊， 包装在废弃物处理方面呢是多个学习的榜样，所以我们学了很多，在这方面呢我们提升的还是比较快的。
I have had lots of communications with our speakers present here today. For example, I have been to Hangzhou's market for many times, and I really learned a lot from our counterparts in developed countries. In terms of, we have the experience I learned from your markets, such as the packaging as well as the standardization or ranking of clean, fresh produce, and this experience has helped China's market to improve a lot.
就像刚开始的4月份讲的，这2年，形势变化特别大，尤其是疫情，对我们批发市场呢进行了一个非常大的考虑，是调整。所以在这方面，中国的批发市场呢发展变化也特别大。第一个呢，首先是电商，就是推送体系和电商线上的线上的销售，提高了高。
Just like what Mr. Stefan Layani has just mentioned, during the past 2 years, especially by the impact of COVID-19, the wholesale markets around the world have been experiencing both the challenges and as well as opportunities. For example, like in China, the biggest, I will just list some biggest challenges happen in this industry. For example, we have seen a great progress of e-commerce in terms of the delivery and the city logistics, and also the online sales grows up a very big share.
还有一个呢，就是批发市场的配送业务怎么样更好去做，尤其是在疫情发生的时候，一个城市疫情发生了，中国是对小区的进行是封闭性管理，所以批发市场就成为了这些小区供应。
At the same time, besides of the e-commerce development, wholesale markets have been also playing a very important role in delivering the fresh food around the cities, especially during the initial stage when when the COVID-19 just outbroke. The cities in China and the resident communities are experiencing a lockdown policy. It's the wholesale markets in each cities who were shouldering the responsibility of sending the fresh produce to each community.
改变呢，就是疫情来了之后，大家对食品安全呢更加重视，所以在食品安全检测方面，它同时也对有机食品。
The last change is the significance and the awareness the awareness building on food safety. Because of the COVID-19 impact, people are caring more about the quality and the food safety. So wholesale markets in China have been working a lot on this regard, and they have established new and well-developed centers for inspection and laboratory services. Also, we have established specific areas in wholesale markets for organic and green labeled food.
如果从我们协会角度来讲呢，我们要看到现在的发展趋势，我们推动的数字化转型的发展。
Also, from the perspective of my association, CAWA, now we have foreseen a future trend, which is digitalization of wholesale markets. So that's all my opinion for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for stressing these big differences existing in the Chinese markets, which are very diverse and with special categories, and their important role in establishing these safer practices in food commercialization and consumption. We will go to the next question. If you are happy with it, we will continue in the same order. And this question will be what role can innovation play in all these changes, either innovative technologies or innovative forms of organization? Thank you.
Okay. I think wholesale market can play innovation on 4 sides. First side, it is innovation on food and new tendencies. Second side, it is digitalization. Third side, it is what we say usually last mile kilometer, smart distribution. And fourth side, it is the more important side, I think. It is to develop new SMEs, new startups, new enterprises. On the third side, as Milanese colleagues say, we are infrastructure. And as infrastructure, we can play a role, but we have a second role besides the tenants. But of course, now, town wants to have quality products, quality food in schools and in collective areas where food is taken, not in restaurant, in private sector, in public sector. And I think the law, the national law, is a good way to change the game on this side. The second side, we are more invested. It is to have digitalization. And digitalization, it is the way we develop, we foster a marketplace, a digital marketplace, like in Rungis, which can sell products on a virtual market. And it is very important, and we are developing that. It is very hard because, you know, agricultural people and sellers are very conservative, in fact. But during the COVID-19, it was developing, and we had an initiative, Rungis Livré Chez Vous, which was a success. The third way is smart logistic, and I will also add the train, the railway. Railway is a new idea in Europe. In fact, we have thousands of trucks on the roads. With the railway, we can concentrate, massify the foods, and it is better for the sustainability. And the fourth way is to develop, foster startup incubator. And it is very important. It is the biggest point, I think, to challenge the sector. We have in Rungis created an incubator which was called Rungis & Co. in 2015, and we incubated more than 90 SMEs, and they get their business off the ground in the best possible conditions with the day-to-day activities and companies of the wholesale market. And for example, a startup, more than one, became today operator on the market. And it is a big difficulty for countries who have not sufficient funds to do it. And I suggest that town help wholesale market to develop, to foster this kind of incubator. Also, it is crucial to create platforms where cities can dialogue with all the actors, enabling the fresh food supply chain to work well and listen their need. And it is what we have done with the room, with GAIN, EAT, and UN Habitat. It is also a clear example of innovation in terms of institutional organization. It is crucial to share expertise, education, raise awareness on this platform, and platform between cities and wholesale market is a good way to share our ideas. That's all.
Thank you. It's been stressed the importance of the innovation role of these markets in innovation of food itself, innovation and digitalization, last mile smart distribution, and creation of new companies and startups. Thank you. Mr. Valls, your turn.
Okay, the first question, just to reinforce a little bit my comments earlier. Of course, wholesale markets and the food sector, it's political concern, of course. When we discuss about COVID, after COVID, the main three questions are fragility, after that is energy, is food, and the supply chain. And you can see that how the governments want to put in place some specific policies in order to reduce the dependence in this kind of things. Of course, it's political. Even wholesale market, in the case of Barcelona, is a political tool. It's a political tool because it's a public sector. It's a tool of the public sector are able to introduce some policies in the food sector. In the case of Barcelona, that is a history of 200 years ago. We started in Mercabarna, but together with Mercabarna, the city put in place 47 markets in the way, in the main goal in order to provide food and healthy food to all the people. And of course, when we discuss about wholesale markets and innovation, we are not a passive actors, we are an active actors. And right now we have two main concerns in the cities. First, the distribution between wholesale markets to the city. And I agree with you, with my colleague in Milano. In the middle of the COVID, we see the cities, the downs of the traffic. Today, the city is back, and the traffic, when we discuss about the distribution, increased 20%. 20% more the traffic you can see in the city right now. And we are not put in place, or we don't push enough to introduce some specific policies in order to try to reduce this traffic, or at least how the technology can help us in order to share the distribution. It's possible. In the same way, there are some platforms are able to share cars, are able to share housing. It's possible to share public sector goods. One of the main goals in the cities has been the discovery of the public transport. Different people going to different places use the same transport. We don't have that today with enough of efficiency to do the same when we discuss about good or we discuss about fruit, vegetables, fish, and freight products. It's more difficult. I understand that. Secondly, we are not passive actors when we see the challenge the food sector have in face and have to tackle. In that case, I think it's important when the wholesale markets have enough capability to introduce some aspects to increase some production. In that case, when in that case, eco products, when in that case, proximity products. But at the same time, we have to introduce some specific conditions or environment in order to some specific companies can help us, can help the food sector in general to introduce innovation in the food. And there are some, and I think there are an important evolution and revolution right now in order to create a new products. Of course, we have to check it, each one of these products, in order to become healthy, in order to take into account the healthy regulation, etc. And we have to work in these two ways when we discuss about innovation. Proximity, we have to grow our farmers near to the city, and secondly, technology. And it's possible to work in the both ways. The technology can improve the proximity, and the proximity sure have improved the technology in order to put in place in the cities, in order to improve this relationship between producers, wholesale markets, and sellers, and finally consumers. And that's all. There are another innovation when we discuss about how we can provide more clear information, more options information when we discuss about the healthy nutrients, etc. This is one of the questions probably we have to improve in the future. That's all.
Thank you very much. It's clear that wholesale markets have to have not passive, are not passive actors of the system, but they are willing to play a very active role in changing all these things that must be fixed or must be improved in the system. Next speaker, please.
I go back to my previous difference between food and infrastructure. Innovation on food. What I would like to have. Nothing. I like the food I have every day. I like pasta, I love jamon serrano, I like fish, I like our Mediterranean food. I just would like to be sure about the quality of what I eat. And this is the innovation I asked to myself. Are we part of the regulatory system? We are a public entity, and we should be part of the quality control of the municipality, of the region, of the government. There is an authority system with a lot of different teams, and we would like to be part of that. To be part of a regulatory system to guarantee the quality of what we have. But I don't want to change the product. I hope the product will remain the same in our system. I know that there is a trade-off. The population is over what the agricultural worldwide system can assure to all the people. And I know that this trade-off is the trade-off between rich countries and poor countries. We are lucky, we are in a rich country, and we can provide food very easily. But I don't want to change too much in our diet. I like our Mediterranean food. And I hope this will be also the food for my children and for my future children of my children. Second point, our logistics system, our infrastructure. This is really very critical point. I become crazy every time I see innovation in the food delivery. We are observing very, very attentive what is going on with the new model of 7 minutes to deliver. There is a player in the e-commerce that is assuring in 7 minutes they will bring at home what you are ordering. But is this really the model we want as consumer? 7 minutes, if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it's really changing something. This is what we want to have in our time. Crazy people going around because they want to arrive in 7 minutes at my home delivering food. And delivering a small bag of food, not a big bag of food. But this will bring the town to be overcrowded. This will bring to think to have drones going around in the town in the future just to make a small delivery. Now, I think that delivery will be really the big innovation about our industry, how to deliver food in last mile in town, but also in long transport. 30% of our food is becoming abroad, is coming from abroad. From Argentina, we are Argentina is one of our best international partner because we importing a lot of food, of seafood and vegetables. Well, but if I think about a Kiwi coming from New Zealand, arriving in Europe, taking transport and arriving to our market, and from our market arriving at the table, which is the carbon footprint of this food that we are consuming coming from very far distance. But we know that the local market cannot afford all the needs we have. How we going to combine the last mile, the kilometer zero, but the agricultural production all over the world? This is, I think, a major question, and how to innovate on this.
Thank you. So he has recognized the value of the Mediterranean diet, but the need to have more transparency, more trust, and to participate more actively in the regulatory systems, and then stressing delivery as being the big innovation driver of the system, one of the biggest innovation drivers. Your turn, please.
Sí,
Yes. Clearly, the situation is very different in the European first world countries and the reality of Latin America. I shall start from something that the Milan colleague has just said. The concentrating markets are a great source of statistical data because they're in the middle, so everything is passing by, and that is technological innovation. We, on the market, we are giving a lot of work in order to digitalize it, take it, and to have this source of data, because these data give you the possibility of programming and creating food policies in a country so large as Argentina. This is key. They have a fundamental role for statistics because the goods that go through the concentrating markets is a reflection of what is the consumption it shows. So if in, like Argentina, we consume more or less half the products, half the amount of fruit and vegetable that would be healthy for consumers to consume, and almost 30% is potatoes, which is carbohydrates. So we should start working on proposing policies, and at the same time, for other countries, Argentina is a source of food, but in Argentina, what happens often, that food that is sent out is scarce within the country, and so we pay a lemon at the same price, at the export price, in euros or in dollar. That means that the Argentinian population ends up consuming certain fruits and vegetables at the same price as the export value, and half the population is below the poverty line, so the uptake is insufficient. It's below poverty line, and so we are talking about public policies, internal markets, internal export, external export, and protecting barriers, how to create limits on imports and exports. We understand food as a right, and I think we all regard it as such. So our main policy has to be to guarantee healthy food and food sovereignty. We have to guarantee that, and in that sense, we have to qualify our public policies and the innovation for the markets. In our reality, the statistical source we have is key, and I want to underpin that the innovation, because technology is not only the smartphone, the technology is knowledge, and knowing what are the foods, and that is key. And the concentrated market can be the source of promoting one type of food, and I said it before and I repeat it, that is also technological innovation, that each population will have to know what we eat, what we promote, how we are feeding ourselves. We were talking about animal protein, and the proposal, public proposal with campaigns and advertising, that is a great task that we understand should be made we should make as markets, because we understand that we have to have a social role, even placing or juxtaposing with the competence of other areas of states and governments, agriculture, health, food, but something I didn't say before. We, in the central market, we have a team, a technical team that go to the field to promote ecology, environmentally friendly agriculture, because we have a technical team. Because when I get on the market, there's a lorry coming in full of oranges, early, with very high toxical chemicals, and I have to destroy it. I asked them, don't you want to start to work in a ecologically friendly way, because you're going to kill people, your ground and the plants. So these markets are a source of generating knowledge, and this knowledge can be used in order to transform this reality. Therefore, I think that it is with this technical innovation and the last mile and the CO footprint, we have to promote the geolocalization of food and vegetable production. So lettuce and tomato that comes from 400 kilometers away could be produced just nearby. These are political decisions which go beyond the market. But Mercator can say, well, we are bringing in tomato from 1,000 kilometers away. This is madness. We are bringing lettuce that could be planted in any vase in the house from 400 kilometers away. So the market, the statistics and what the concentrating market show the irrationality of the system in which we are. So that is a political decision. I manage a logistical space where things go through, but with information that the administration of that logistical space, we start acting with transformation actions in respect of that. Technological innovation is not only a question of microchips. It has to do with information, with model proposal, and with training. And in the central market of Buenos Aires, we create a healthy, safe, and sovereign food structure which organizes popular eating areas. And we must understand that Argentina is third world, and certain debates are lagging behind, and the problems of poverty and hunger are much worse than here in the first world.
Information, providing data to inform policies, and also to create new knowledge and new solutions. We will give the word to Mr. Ma, see if can be connected again. Thank you. Welcome.
There are lots of innovations for wholesale markets in China after the outbreak of COVID-19. For example, regarding the traffic situation, some Chinese wholesale markets have developed their reservation system for the entrance for the vehicles when they are entering the wholesale markets. They have to register in advance the information of this vehicle so as to create a convenience condition when they are entering specific cities, such as in Beijing, and also the other specific wholesale markets. So according to this reservation and the early information system, the wholesale markets will create their own timetable for each vehicle. This can help soothe the crowdedness in major cities in China.
原来都是在现场展示，因为疫情期间呢，有不少的批发市场也开辟了线上展示、线下的不再展示的这么一个销售模式。
The second aspect is about the showcase. halls. Previously, all the wholesale markets used the display hall as the on-site display, but after the outbreak of COVID-19, most of them are using the online display for products. No longer the offline or physical display of products are no longer adopted.
第三一个呢，就是利用数字信息技术学应用市场和软件应用的比较多了，比方讲测微系统，商品的这个在追溯体系、质量展示等。
The third aspect is we are using more and more digitalization as well as other advanced technologies. For example, we are using the temperature testing system and also the traceability and the quality control system. This kind of new technologies are increasingly adopted in the wholesale market.
最后一个呢，就是批发商协助经销商呢和前端生产建立生态基地，以及呢在后端的加强推送到消费者手上，力争的解决最初1公里和最后1公里的问题。
The fourth aspect is that the wholesale markets are helping their wholesalers to smooth their relations with the producers. Also, they are helping them to connect with the upstream producers, also as well as the downstream retailers or consumers. Not only just they are enhancing the logistic for the last mile, but also they are enhancing their relationship and the first mile logistics with the producers. Of course, all these above innovations are not just for only one market. Lots of Chinese markets are exploring these new efforts. So I'm just sharing with you this experience. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we see how COVID crisis has changed many things also in Chinese markets and how innovation has helped changing, improving delivery, safety, and collaboration among the members of the food systems. We will just go to the last questions. We see that we are facing very complex challenges. We know that none of the actors are going to be able to change the current situation alone. So I think it's really very important that we try to understand a little bit better what type of alliances are required to build in cities with other stakeholders, and what can you do from your wholesale markets?
Maybe the biggest one alliance, if we can work together, it is not always sure, hand in hand, is to have a coherent regulation. And the coherent regulation means collaboration between wholesale markets and cities about regulation. Of course, rules, law, regulation, it is the monopoly of cities. But if they listen better to wholesale market, the cooperation will tend to have a better distribution in the town. And of course, it is a very pregnant problem for cities, the circulation, the traffic. And a way to solve this, I think, is to discuss and solve the problem. And we see during the pandemic, we had supply chain disruption. We have some markets, some retail markets, which were closed during the pandemic. Close relationship between cities, like we do in Paris. It is very easy in Paris. Paris city is in my board, and we can discuss easily of the problem. But in all the world, the wholesale markets are not always very close to the cities, and it is important to discuss about regulation. The second thing where we need alliances, I think, is also to consolidate the tendency to a more sustainable system and more sustainable food system, because there are a lot of things which are wanted by cities which are not practically realizable, in fact. And I think we must, and we do that last month in Paris, we must have more citizen consultation, direct citizen consultation on subject. Is it a good idea to impose, for example, a vegan meal to all children in the school? I'm not sure the majority of the population is on this side, and our elected people can be on this side. And I think we have to discuss about real practice and make a lot of citizen consultation. Well, that's all. I think, in fact, the relationship between wholesale market and it has been said by Cesare, the collaboration between cities and wholesale market are very natural, in fact, in practical. But I think we have always to make visits that elected people can see the reality on the real ground.
So
okay.
Exchanging good practices, enhancing these actual collaborations, and also trying to integrate new actors in this dialogue and in this conversation, society and also regulation bodies. Thank you. Mr. Valls.
Yeah, thank you. What we eat, how we eat, and where we buy what we eat has a debate about health, about our health, about the health of the planet, and the health of our economy. In that case, any action we have to do in order to guarantee the supply chain, to improve the quality of the foods, and to improve any relationship in order to provide more information to consumers about the healthy and where the products have come, it's important. And that means we have to increase our relationship with the several stakeholders in a collaborative way. It's not only the way to manage the stakeholders, it's the way to work with the stakeholders. This is the difference. Because the problem is not simple. Last week I have been meeting with several colleagues, and we discussed about the difference between problems. No? One is the simple problems. It's easy to define and easy to solve. Another is complicated problems. It's more or less easy to explain. There are cause-effect questions, and easy more or less to solve. The other is complex problems. This is more difficult to identify and to define. We need no one party, we need more parties to try to solve the problem. And there are multiple interconnections depending on the decisions we take. And of course, we need experts and actors in order to help us. And finally, there are chaotic problems. It's a problem sometimes, there are no apparent relationship. It's more difficult to define, it's more difficult to solve. I think when we discuss about food, we discuss between complex and chaotic problem. It's not an easy problem. If we want to solve that problem or that opportunity or challenge, normally when you have a presentation, it's food, retos and oportunidades, no? Challenge and opportunities. Well, in reality, it's the problem. This is a problem. We have to solve this problem. And to solve this problem, we are working close to the city council, work in order to how we can become more resilient the infrastructure, but at the same time, how we can increase the food in more sovereignty way. In that way, I understand when we discuss about sovereignty, it's Barcelona, it's Catalonia, but it's Europe as well, in order to try to become more sovereignty. And I think when we discuss in the farm to fork strategy, the European Union, this is the way they want to work, to way. And the other question is linked to the companies. We are in infrastructure, but we are companies currently are in the middle between producers and consumers and sellers. We have to work with these people, close to these people in innovation. We have to work in that case in Barcelona with universities and the schools. That question our colleague in Buenos Aires say, it's important to try to explain to the kids what kind of food you are able to eat and what kind is the quality of this food. And we are working with the local farmers and with the cooperative. But probably what is the difference? The difference, it's not question to manage the stakeholders, it's the question to work with the stakeholders. And when we discuss about the zero food waste, one of the projects we are working in Barcelona is work with ONGs, because we are in a position to help in order to become more efficiency system to recover part of the food. But we are not a specialist, and it's not our goal to distribute this food. It's important to work to ONGs, and these ONGs are able to move this food in the several sites, are in a position to distribute to the people. I think this is the main important question for us. We are a wholesale markets, but we have to increase our natural capital. How? Reducing the CO2 emissions. How? Improving in our bio-circular economy. We have to increase our human and social capital. How? Working together with stakeholders, at the same time, try to improve the skills of the people. The skills of the people needed today, and the skills of the people needed in the future when we try to solve these problems fully of opportunity, but fully of challenges. This is a way to work. In my case.
So thank you very much. It's about understanding that we are part of complex systems, part of complex problems, and that our behavior and understanding of what's happening, it really can make a difference either as consumers, citizens, or any part of the system. Your turn, please.
Thanks. In the last weeks in Italy, we had the election of many municipalities. And what has been interesting in the debate was the use of term green city. Green city, green city, green city was the first message of any candidate, major candidate. And the point is really very important. And the major elected in Milano has as main task to transform Milano in a green city, or to bring Milano to be an example of the green city. And this is the point. The point is that we are part of the green system, and we are at the center of the green consideration, the green strategy. And the problems are on the table and difficult to resolve. An example, we are a night market. I like my colleague Jordi because it's a day market, apart fish. But we are a night market, and it is a nightmare also, because people are not happy to work during the night and to have exactly the opposite life that the normal people they have. And we would like to become a day market. But the problem is that if the logistic of our market is in town during the day, is becoming a crazy mobility. And this is the point for us. The major partnership is with the municipality. And for example, can we use the public transport infrastructure to deliver food? Can we think during the night to deliver food, or we are creating noise, too much noise in town to people that is sleeping? And this is really the point. When a lot of people is in the same place, we have to organize the people. And the problem of organization in town is very, very critical. I think that a good green policy bring to two different points. The energy policy, how we produce and how we consume energy. And the second one is the mobility policy, because at the end, this is the major task to organize the town, how we organize the mobility. And we are part of this system, and the major partnership for us is a partnership on the mobility side. I think that this is our major policy concern, how a town wants to organize the mobility in town. Paris is trying to be the first mover, reducing the speed of the car, reducing the mobility, the car mobility, reducing whatever. But at the end, we need to deliver some very heavy products, because we need to deliver kilos, not really something that is easy to deliver by bicycle or by walking around.
Thank you very much. Understanding the consequences of those transformations that we want in our cities and seeing what's possible and what's better. Mr. Noel, please, your turn.
Gracias. Sí, primero,
Thank you. The Buenos Aires market is also a night market. It is a mess to work at night, but let me say two things. First, Jordi said the thing about alliances and always establishing as part of the food proposal. If we're saying that the entire food chain, not just the logistics part of it, for that, states are great consumers of foodstuffs, great purchasers of foodstuffs. Therefore, the articulation between the wholesale markets with a clearly defined proposal of a production and agricultural and consumption and diet models in articulation with the consumption of those states, that is fundamental. Because the state, as they buy foodstuffs, can also buy crap, or they can buy food. They can buy food that is just barely suitable for human consumption, or they could buy real food. Yesterday, I met a man named Alejandro in the wholesale market here, an organic farmer, organic producer. Experiences like his are the things we need to promote. And municipal experiences, those that have the largest scope with their population and neighboring populations, they are strategic in this proposal, in this dialogue of what these diets should look like. And then I reiterate, and I say, for me, it's unthinkable to have a wholesale market that is decoupled from the state's food policy in general at the national, municipal, and state levels. Here would be the local council, the ayuntamiento. So, as for the logistics matter, as my Milanese colleague says, obviously we must organize logistics. It is a huge mess with thousands of trucks, but also with the consumption and the message and the proposal moving toward the production sector. As we said at the outset, you can't have a wholesale market with all these proposals, but if the state's agricultural policy is contrary to what you are promoting, it won't be good for anything. If you have a policy that smothers small farmers or promotes a technological package of death instead of promoting ecology, organics, and proximity, it will be impossible to carry it out. So it has to be a continuity of the policies, and those policies have to do with our political leaders. It's a political project. It's not something that just exists in the air. And that is where civil society and the population in general will be our strongest ally to propose and demand another agricultural food model. We believe in food as a right, but corporations and other sectors in the food chain understand food as merchandise that is bought and sold. They produce it to sell it and make as much money as they can. Sometimes we see some companies with more social awareness We can work on price and value and making it more affordable. We live in a world of capitalism where goods are bought and sold and moved around, and it's a matter of buying low and selling high. That's the problem that we have nowadays, unfortunately. So in that framework, we must have strong, active policies and try to get society as a whole to demand healthy products of proximity, so that companies and the private sector see a business opportunity in proximity in healthy food, because there will be an economic value to transform the model. It can't just be a judicial ruling or some little proposal from the outside when we have a little market here and we have a little peripheral thing where the small farmers can sell their stuff. No. The true economic subject, the true economy, and the true food volume is moving elsewhere. That is where all of society and the entire population must be more aware to demand and propose another agricultural food model, and from there up, all of the links of the chain adapt to those consumption demands coming from society, coming from citizens. Thus, society as a whole, organized into associations, or at least with a critical awareness, to question what we are eating and drinking and how it is produced, where is it from, what impact does it have. Along those lines, in recent years, we are advancing a great deal, and it's growing, and this is having an impact on the commercial chain, and also in articulation with the states, and especially municipalities. That is where you interact on the day-to-day basis. That's where you're closest to. Those are our strongest allies too. But also, farmers' associations are important. Small farmers, medium-sized farmers, they're important for their desire to put their activity into a plane of value and to get a proper recognition for what they do. And we have to work against the corporate movements that cause these small farmers to disappear. These small farmers associations must also propose, promote, and demand new models.
The changes in their behavior towards food to change the policy, to change the model, and triggering this transformation that is needed in the food systems. We will give the word to Mr. Ma again.
我觉得要想合作创新，实际上需要的批发市场要从物业的管理思维向服务贸易的思维转变。
I think if we want to successfully deliver the cooperation and innovation with different stakeholders, the wholesale markets have to transform their mindset from the management of a real estate company into the service model management.
因为批发市场从国际来看，就是美国到欧洲到日本，都是逐步下降的，说明其他的 销售渠道是上升的，那批发市场如何能够维持我们的份额？我认为呢，需要从2个方面去寻求合作。第一个呢，是从整个供应链的角度，协助经销商和经销商、批发商合作，让批发商呢从前端的生产到最后消费、从零售加强合作，这是纵向的。
From the international perspective, if we look at the wholesale markets, where it is in the United States or Japan or other developed countries, the market share of wholesale markets have been declining during the decades, while the market share of other channels such as retail markets or supermarkets have been increasing. This means that the wholesale market, the positioning of wholesale markets have been downgraded due to the development of the other stakeholders. So if we want to strike our success back again, we have to focus on two aspects. The first one, we have to really consolidate from the perspective of supply chain. And we have to also focus and assist our wholesalers in the wholesale market to help them from the very initial stage of producers as well as their vertical commercial chain to the downstream supplier, to the downstream retailers, and we have to help them to soothe their relations with the key stakeholders.
原来只是买卖关系，只关注自己的利润的情况下，要改成在利益共享的前提，把供应链呢进行是合作制。
And the essence of this transformation actually lies in the mindset that previously we just focus on our own profit of the wholesale market. But starting from today, we have to focus not just the business, but also we need to create a profit sharing model with our stakeholders from the perspective of the entire supply chain.
那么第二个呢，就是对这个供应链的形成过程中，其他的服务商，比方叫金融企业、物流企业以及数字化企业以及消费者。那么我们可以把我们的批发市场当成是交易甚至是在科研基地等加强合作，真正让消费者能够得到的营养、安全，甚至生活美好的产品。
The second aspect is we have to also focus on the other stakeholders throughout the entire supply chain, such as our financial service providers for the wholesale market, as well as the logistic companies, digital companies, as well as our end users, the consumers. We can regard the wholesale markets as a base for education or a research center for scientific breakthrough. So in this way, we will make our consumers realize that wholesale market is playing a very important role in the platform of supply chain. So they will we can also provide not only just the nutritious food, but also safety and even economically efficient products to our consumers in the cities.
我特别希望我们中国的批发市场和国际批发商加强国际合作。
Of course, in the end, I also wish that the Chinese wholesale market can strengthen their cooperation and communications together with our wholesale markets around the world. So that is also one of my wishes.
所以我也特别期待呢，这个疫情呢尽快过去，让这个伦基斯的哪里呢和我们一起来推动中国批发市场的发展。
I also wish that COVID-19 can end as early as possible, so I can invite Mr. Layani to China. We can start our cooperation for Chinese wholesale markets again. Thank you.
Thank you. Then again, the necessity to create new balances among the stakeholders within the supply chain is also an important aspect to consider. So we have reached the end of the session today. I don't know if there is room for questions of the public. I don't think so. So I would like to thank you all your participation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your days here in Barcelona. Thank you.